My name is Sohail, and today I have the pleasure of having Nino from the project Apillon on the podcast with me. Did I say it right, by the way? Apillon?
We say Apillon, but you're right, it comes from the name Papillon. We are trying to mimic some sort of butterfly. So what our product is trying to achieve is metamorphosis from Web 2 into Web 3. And we're doing this via API. So if you put together API and Papillon, then you get Apillon.
Yeah, I figured that out today with the API reference in there. I was like very proud of myself, but a bit late to the party, I think. Hey everyone, real quick, just wanted to let you know some amazing news. We're an official media partner this year at Polkadot Decoded in Brussels on July 11th and 12th. So I'll be there. If you're there, come say hi. I'm not just saying that, I mean it. And two, I'm also moderating a panel there on unifying user experience with some amazing panelists. So come and check that out if that interests you. If you have a ticket to ETHCC in Brussels the same week, you get a free ticket to Decoded, so that's good. Or you can just watch it online for free. We'll put a link in the description to that. And hope to see you there. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the TEACHMEDEFI podcast again. This episode, I think, should be particularly interesting to devs, to developers. Let's dive right in. One of the quotes from you that stuck out to me was Web3 is complex. Its development shouldn't be. And then the other one was Web3 services the Web 2 way. So kind of, can you just kick us off with what's behind these statements? What's so complex in terms of developing in Web 3, like in the blockchain and crypto space and on that infrastructure, versus in Web 2, like the web as we know it today?
Definitely. I mean, maybe it would be easier to explain at first from the Web 2 angle, right? So as we entered Web 1, of course, then Web 2, we had some of the tools. We maybe started with basic, HTML, CSS, maybe FTP servers, which we use then to broadcast or to move files to the server and then serve them. And then as the tooling became more and more advanced, so we started inputting and investing more time and resources into tooling, we came to the point where we have tools like React with Vercel. We have very modern frameworks where you can build really quickly and the code is optimized. And, the experience of building Web 2 right now is optimal. But the reason for this is because we invested into tooling for 20 years. We didn't stagnate there. We didn't just say, okay, this is now internet and this is how you develop. No, it's a constant improvement, right? So with Web 3, we are coming from a different, from different foundations. We are now talking with blockchain. Blockchain is immutable. There are transactions. Transactions may take X or an unpredictable amount of time. You need some sort of service to understand and to manage those transactions and to learn what's happening there. Once you deploy a smart contract, if it's fully decentralized, you are unable to fix it. So these are all new things where internet kind of is behaving differently. And this is what brings completely new paradigm into Web 3. And now, we need to adapt the tooling. So people coming from Web 2 who has this tooling, which has been in development for years, and they come into Web 3, it feels very rusty. It feels unfinished. It feels almost Spartan. It's very hard to build there. Things don't work as they should. And the logic of that convenience that we have in Web 2 is missing. So this is specifically what Apillon is trying to solve. This is what comes from those two statements that you mentioned. When we are thinking about Web3 storage, we're mostly thinking about how are developers using Web2 storage right now. And we're trying to mimic this experience with result that, with the end goal, which results in Web3, in decentralized storage. So it's all about mimicking and figuring out where the compromise is and how to change the service, a Web3 service, to be as similar experience to Web2.
Okay. And is this, I believe you're doing this somewhat focused on the Polkadot ecosystem, right? noticed another quote of yours, which I believe was in your proposal, which said, um, and that ties into what you're saying now, but just to reiterate, it's Apillon is the first Polkadot project actively offering services to application layer Web3 developers. And then you say the Apillon platform serves as Polkadot's answer to Third Web, Moralis, Pinata, and other solutions already thriving in external ecosystems. So, for people that don't know, so what are these platforms? Are they what you just described? And are you trying to do something similar now for the Polkadot blockchain and ecosystem?
Yes, you're right. I mean, in Polkadot, we have this amazing layer, Polkadot layer 0 and then layer 1, where all the parachains live, where there is a lot of things happening. We have parachains which are providing different services, either, identity management to storage to smart contracts to all of that. And then bringing this into application layer where actually users are onboarding and where users are interacting with those chains, there is not much happening there, right? So
Mm,
if we look at the companies that you mentioned, Third Web, Moralis, Alchemy, etc., we're not directly competing with them. We have certain similarities from the perspective of abstracting specific services and making them more simple.
mm,
But I would say Apillon, in this perspective, has more to offer because we can really rely on specific parachains who are here to stay and who have interoperability possibilities, right? So
mm,
all this, if we are able to abstract those parachains and continue building, with time, Apillon will provide service. Will a developer or a user who has no development knowledge will be able to achieve certain results on Polkadot without really understanding the blockchain complexities,
mm.
without really configuring parachains or even handling payments on parachains or whatever, just by simply clicking and achieving blockchain or Web3 results in this case.
Right. I saw there was a lot of outpouring of support for you guys as well, because you had this proposal up for the Polkadot treasury. So for the people who don't know, there's this decentralized treasury on that network, Polkadot, which is fed by the inflation of the dot tokens. And then people can vote on how these funds are used to fund different initiatives that might benefit the network. And I believe you had a proposal up, which was pretty hotly discussed. I think in general, it was a debate going for a while. I think, but eventually, there's all these quotes from builders in the space, founders of other parachains or projects, which were really supportive of your project and what you're trying to do. And I believe the overarching theme was improving developer experience.
Yes.
Um, can you
Yep.
tell us a bit about that? Why is that so crucial to have? And do we have bad DevX currently? And why is it important to improve it?
Yeah, so I would say right now, Web3 overall has worse developer experience than developers are used to, which are coming from Web2. We
Mm,
talked about this in the first question already. So I wouldn't say Polkadot in general has bad developer experience. This is common for most of the Web3 projects. Like if you would go to Ethereum or somewhere else, the developer experience is different and not as convenient as developers are used to in Web 2. And I think this
mm,
is the main case in this situation. And this is mostly due to the fact that Web 2 has this 20 years of tooling development,
mm,
right? There is a lot of companies which have done what Apple is trying to do in Web 3 in Web 2 for years, and they have been optimizing this as much as possible. So I would say this is partially the reason why the feedback was so good. And I would love to take this opportunity and thank every single one who participated in the vote and helped us pass that proposal and left us this positive comments. And I can just say I feel that these people recognized what we are trying to build and where this is gravitating towards, because for Apple, it doesn't stop like we're not just one specific use case, but basically
Mm.
Apillon can grow as far as Polkadot grows. Like if there are several parachains, well, we can abstract even more, and we can just keep bringing this into Apillon and keep thinking, how do we make this simpler? How do we basically make two parachains interact in a single flow where user is just clicking, but the configurations are happening in the background.
Mhm.
So we do have a lot to offer, and I think a lot of people recognize this, and that's why the outcome was positive.
Right. Um, there's also this graphic which kind of shows, perhaps we can show it right now in the episode, which kind of shows like the multiple parachains which flow into Appion in the graphic, and then Appion providing the APIs to developers. Um, can you just expand on it a little bit, just for people who might not understand fully how this makes it easier for devs versus having to integrate those parachain services themselves?
Yes. So one of the how to say examples that I love to use when I'm explaining this is, imagine you would like to build Web3 clone of Instagram, right? As a developer, where would you start? The first thing developer has to do when cloning Instagram is the way how people will sign up and sign in, right? So the login registration part. And when you look at the Polkadot ecosystem, there are a lot of solutions, providing identity or a way to, create some sort of either account or a wallet or account in the background.
Mm.
And in this case, Apillon has approached Kilt. This was one of the first parachains we started to integrate, which does a lot with DID credentials, which are decentralized identifiers, etc. And we provided all this into a very simple service where basically attestation for a DID credential can happen over an email. So what we are simulating with this is user can enter their email. They will receive confirmation email. Once they confirm it, the attestation is passed and a decentralized identifier is then issued, which means if you are building how to say Web3 Instagram clone, this is the first step, right? This is how your users create some sort of account, and we do it over email attestation. Once the DID credential is issued, user may use it to log in. And once the user is logged in into Instagram, typically what a user would do is probably do a selfie or some sort of photo and try to upload it. This is what Instagram does, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what you do in the next step is you call Apillon API for storage. We also have SDK, but you call our storage service and you push this photo to our storage. And what we do basically is we translate and push this to Crust, which is another parachain, which takes care of storing files to IPFS. So now all of a sudden you have two crucial services in one SDK, which we also provide for Flutter. So you could do it as a mobile development.
Mm.
And
Cool.
you can simply, just continue with this logic and you can build Instagram clone. So this would be really put briefly, but the point is that these APIs are very simple to use. They are the logic of these APIs or SDKs very similar to what you would see in Web 2. But
Mm.
more importantly, when you are creating guild DIDs or storing something to Crust, Apillon is the one who is paying for the underlying transactions. So you as a developer, you don't have to go and buy guild tokens or Crust
Ah,
tokens and
mm.
keep them in a bag. And then once you run out, the storage dies, We're the ones who are pumping this and keeping all the bags in check. And developers can use our freemium plan or just pay with the credit card and subscribe, and we will just keep paying the transactions in the background. So this is, I would say, the biggest benefit, because then as a developer, you can scale. You don't have to think, am I running out of tokens?
Yeah.
Where's the problem? So yeah, we're putting this together. Very simple SDK and no issue with crypto payments. And you can basically just deploy and almost forget about it. So yeah.
Right. So this is how you build Web3 Instagram.
I mean, there is a huge disclaimer. It's still not that trivial, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
There are some tricks with the IDs. There is some specific friction with that. So users still do have to understand how to use those credentials. And we are
Right.
not there yet as Web3 adoption. With, for example, Crust or storing something to IPFS, the issue can be those files are not encrypted by default. So if you're doing something very personal and you just upload it without understanding, well, it can be an issue. So, this is how to say, in theory, yes, you could build it, but still you would need to treat all those minor differences between Web3 and Web2 and
Mm.
adjust to make it really polished.
Mm. Well, I can definitely see how this makes things much easier for devs, because then you can just focus on the application you're trying to build, while kind of like having peace of mind that you're building it on infrastructure that is like secure, that is decentralized, that as you want your application to be. Like you don't have to worry about the infrastructure part as much anymore, but it's there, and you can develop your app.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Mm.
and we as Apillon, we don't even, have to take care of that infrastructure either. We just have to choose the right parachain and reach out to the team, figure out are they mature enough, how can we integrate and just push on and basically, keep following the updates because then
Mm.
that's the third benefit. If you're working via Apillon and something changes on Crust or something changes on Astar, we're the ones who are going to handle that change. For you, the SDK will remain the same. So you don't
Mm.
have to constantly update and follow those changes.
Mm. Let's break it down, like why Web3 Instagram versus Instagram, because in terms of, for example, I could just log in with my email, right? So why would we want here the decentralized solution that the parachains provide? Because I think there's many listeners who might be like, okay, but why basically, so why the decentralized storage, why decentralized identity, what's the what's the reason, why is it better, what's the utility?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot going on the side of either Instagram or Facebook regarding trust towards users, their privacy, and their data, right?
Mm,
So if today I am publishing, I don't know, 2 to 5 photos, which are either intimate or whatever they are, to Instagram, I have absolutely zero guarantees that these photos will not get deleted or I will not get banned. There are several
mm,
cases where users either get, false positive to be bots, those pictures are removed, their accounts are compromised, something happens, and now those photos are gone. So in the case of Web3, there is possibility to use the underlying architecture or infrastructure where a user always has these files under his or her own control,
mm,
but just allows a social network to use them and to display them. So basically, it would be like, I'm sharing these photos from this specific folder from my, computer with this new sort of Instagram, and you guys can see it. But if I someday decide that I don't want to be part of this Instagram thing anymore, I can unplug, and the
mm,
pictures are still where they were. So I would say this is this new paradigm where users are simply getting tired of getting abused by advertising, getting abused by their personal data getting pumped to marketing teams who then
mm,
form different ads which are very manipulative because they do know a lot about users. So this is what we are trying to achieve here. But let's say there are users who don't believe the privacy thing, or they can even say, I don't care. I don't care if they are using this. At least the platform is free.
yeah.
The problem is that you are still right now a victim of several platforms. You go to LinkedIn, you put the same picture there. You go to Facebook, you go to Instagram, you go to Tumblr, you go to Twitter, and it's
Mm,
always the same thing. You create those accounts, you give your email, something is happening, you are unaware where this data is getting shared. With
Mm.
Web3, we will have ability to have, one decentralized identifier and just hop between different platforms,
Mm.
connect with people, and once we're done, we'll be able to, how to say, unplug ourselves, right? It's
Mm.
like stepping into a bar, and then when things in bar become, out of taste and you don't like it anymore, well, then you can step out of the bar and you go home.
Mm. Yeah.
Right now, we do not have these capabilities, and this is what Web3 with underlying tech is trying to provide.
Right, right. You go to a different bar and you take your stuff with you.
Yes, and one bar might be I don't know, a cafe, and another bar might be a nightclub. There's a
Yeah.
huge difference, and you have this option where you want to enter, where you want to exit, and there are no traces left behind you
Mm.
except maybe an empty glass or something like that. But
Oh, I like that.
nothing else is there.
Right. That's a great analogy. So, basically, it's more like then you hold your stuff, you hold your data, and you basically give permissions when you want to an app to kind of
Exactly. Yeah.
access it, or you revoke it, instead of like going to each app and then putting all your stuff on there again and all your
Yes.
stuff on the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like I said, even though you don't care who has your data, maybe you're creating accounts with imaginary data. It is very annoying to create those accounts over
Yeah,
and
yeah, it
over
is.
and over. We're like I create at least 3 to 5 accounts every week. I try to test this platform or another platform and see what they're doing. I'm constantly creating accounts, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
created thousands of accounts in my life probably, and I have no recollection today which are those accounts, where can I just unsubscribe from all of them, who is now holding all this data. It's quite messy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely true. All these sign up processes and all that. This makes it really, really more streamlined and easy and secure and self sovereign, I guess, which is a theme
Yes, of
in
course.
crypto. Hey there, just a quick message. If you're watching this and you're enjoying it, please make sure to tell a friend that might also like it, because we don't run any ads on this podcast and that helps us out a lot to keep doing this. Thank you. So, in terms of the services, these decentralized services which the parachains provide, right? Um, which which ones are you offering for now? Are you already live? And which ones are you offering? Which ones have you not integrated yet or looking to integrate? Yeah.
Yeah, so we are right now on production. In production, we have two categories of our offering. So the first category is targeted towards developers, and we call them Web3 services because they are like a la carte services where a developer comes in and says, I want just storage or I just want authentication. And here we have Web3 storage, which is derived from Crust, and it provides decentralized storage of files. We have Web3 hosting, which is again very similar. It's derived from Crust and decentralized storage, but it allows you to upload static websites such as React or Vue. We also offer free HTTPS certificates in this package, and you can also connect your domain. So if you look at Apillon.io website or several thousand other websites hosted with us, they're all basically hosted via this specific Web3 hosting service. Then we have Web3 authentication, which is derived from Kilt. And with this API, we have also pre-written the widget, which you can integrate into any dApp, allowing your users to attest their email and then immediately generate a DID credential, which they can use to log in.
Hmm.
And the final service we have is Web3 Compute, where we are utilizing Fala in the background. So Fala is parachain, which does trusted execution environment computing. And we have one specific service where you can, to put it briefly, you can basically encrypt files. Imagine you have a file with a lot of passwords. You can encrypt this file with an NFT from your collection, and whoever holds this NFT can decrypt this file and no one else,
Mm.
right? So
Mm.
we have this built, and you don't for this you don't need any coding. You can basically just utilize our UI and achieve this behavior.
Mm.
And this is sitting on Fala's fat contracts. So we are expanding on this service in the near future, but these are the core services that you need to build something, right? Then another category that we have are pre-built solutions. With pre-built solutions, we're not targeting directly developers, but more of, let's say, agencies or companies or Web3 companies that want to achieve a specific use case really quickly and just modify maybe the look and feel.
Mm.
So, for example, we have proof of attendance NFTs.
Mm.
This is just one of the several pre-built solutions, and I will not go all over all of them. But this one is very interesting because it's packed into a Docker image. So we built the front end, the back end, the email service. Everything is in this package, which you basically deploy either locally or on cloud. And what you need is a NFT collection, which you also have to deploy on Apillon. You can do it with no code. And basically, you can create a new pop event. Imagine for Polkadot Decoded. Let's say you have a
Mm-hmm.
stand and you would like people to come there and scan something with a phone and then mint an NFT. So for this specific case, you would deploy POP. You would receive one front end page which constantly switches the QR codes so that no one code is one NFT, and you really have to be on that location. Once the
Mm-hmm.
user scans this QR code, they fall on a website where they enter email, and an NFT gets reserved to that email. User
Mm-hmm.
also gets the instructions on how to install the wallet and claim that email, and everything is no gas for user. So this is very calibrated towards companies who are trying to penetrate into, how to say, into cases where users are not familiar with Web3. That's why user can reserve NFT with email. There's no gas needed, and you can deploy this simply by clicking. And we have
Mm.
three more of such solutions available. For example, airdropping NFTs to your CSV file of emails. So if you're running
Mm.
a Shopify store, you can export emails, import into this pre-built solution, click
Cool.
send, and everyone will get instructions how to install the wallet and how to claim that NFT. The third category of our services, so as I mentioned, first were Web3 services, pre-built solutions, and the third is smart contracts. With smart contracts, we are right now supporting Moonbeam and Astar, so mostly EVM. And we have ERC 721 smart contract, basically for NFT collections and NFTs, with an extension of Remark standard. For those unfamiliar, Remark standard allows NFT nesting. So
Mm-hmm.
these are the services that are right now available. And like I said, a lot of them are available simply by clicking, and you don't even have to code.
That's super interesting. It also sounds like you guys are quite well positioned to, yeah, bridging the gap between Web3 and Web2, as you said, but also for specific kind of enterprise adoption, like helping enterprises to do certain things in Web3, because you make it quite easy. And yeah, is that something you guys are specifically looking into as well, or?
Yes. So all the pre-built solutions were built with a specific scenario in mind, and this scenario is, every big city has several web agencies who are, building either WordPress pages or something more complex like mobile apps or something for their clients.
Mm.
And what we know for a fact is that there is more and more clients who are knocking to those doors saying, we heard something about NFTs, we heard something about
Yeah, yeah.
Web3. What can you guys do, right? And if those agencies now start from scratch, like, where do we go? Where do they go? If they come to Polkadot, for example, they have to configure everything. They have to know
Mm.
whether RPCs, how do you index, how do you deploy a smart contract, how do you make all this secure, right?
Yeah, they
So
have to do like a bachelor's degree in the architecture
exactly,
of the relay
exactly.
chain and everything.
Exactly. And at the same time, we know that mostly it's going to happen with, very specific use cases like loyalty for e-commerce with
Yeah,
NFTs, some trivial experimentation, basically. And that's
yeah,
why these pre-built solutions are written in Docker, written in everything that is written inside is basically Web2 technology. We use Express.js, Node.js, SQL database for storing emails, where an agency can come and say, okay, yeah, we can do something for you guys, really quickly. And then what they focus on is basically how the user will mint this NFT. So they now they're not thinking about the backend anymore. They're thinking about the front end, the experience of the user
hmm,
and the branding. And this is mostly what a good
yeah, yeah.
agency does. A good agency doesn't, spend 80% on the back end and 20% on the front end. It's quite the opposite. So that's why we built these pre-built solutions. And this is quite a new addition for us. We're still tweaking, not the bugs, but tweaking the experience, tweaking the
Yeah,
UI as we are already running with the new features. And soon we're going to start marketing these pre-built solutions with our Google ads, Twitter ads, and basically just starting to sell these solutions. So yeah.
that's awesome. So, you guys are probably gonna build up a sales a capacity as well, then, to kind of like target or approach these web agencies and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a philosophical question of what we want to be, right? Are
Hmm.
we a platform that provides something, or are we, a sales oriented product?
Mm.
This is something that still has to be proven on the market. Like I said, we provided these pre-built solutions with specific use case in mind. So we first have to prove it. And I think
Mm.
once the market picks up and like I said, clients start knocking, then we will have a good opportunity to see whether this was a right decision or not that right decision.
Mm.
And then it will make it much easier to decide, which path to follow in this case.
Right. You mentioned, I think it could be also quite interesting for the creator economy, right? You mentioned, for example, the files that can be decrypted with the NFT then and things like that. That could be interesting, I think, as a musician to drop um, little songs or something just for your super fans, things
Exactly.
like that.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the idea that we had in mind. Though we were experimenting how to work with Fala, what to do, and this is the case we came up with. And yeah, actually, it could be possible for a band to create, let's say, 1,000 NFTs, and each NFT would hold a tiny part or clip of a unique song, or some demo or something like that.
Yeah.
And if this user resells the NFT, it also resells the way to decrypt that information, right?
Right.
So yeah,
And you also mentioned the payment side. So obviously, this is also a pain point in terms of user experience. Like you said, if I have to go and source all these parachain tokens in order to pay for the services on those chains, it's a huge pain, basically. So people will be able to just pay on your platform with, I don't know, just check out with Stripe or something like that, or
yeah,
PayPal or whatever. And
that's true already since December. We have Stripe since December last year,
mhm.
and basically you can subscribe. So in the case you need storage from Apillon, in that case you need to subscribe to a monthly subscription because there's bandwidth, and it's a monthly thing. So limits are reset monthly. But everything else, you can buy credits upfront, and basically every NFT mint chips away a few of the credits, and you as a developer can then fully deploy how to say NFT collections where users do not have to spend gas to mint, and you instead spend your credits. But besides Stripe and credit cards, we also, of course, support payments with DOT. So you can also pay with DOT, which then translates into credits, and the business model then is quite the same. What is worth mentioning, because Apillon is co-financed from the OpenGov and proposal and community, we have created a very generous freemium plan with the goal to bring as much adoption to Polkadot as possible. So I guarantee that you will need to have thousands of users in your DApp before you run out of freemium plan limits. And second important thing is all the paid plans and credits are right now calibrated to non-profit. So we are not profiting from that. We are price dumping from all of our competitors, which is also one of the ways we're giving back to the community who voted for our financing, and we're trying to boost Polkadot adoption this way. So basically everything is very dirt cheap right now.
Right, that's always good. Uh, and I read something about how revenue would be also put into like a fund to support something like that.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, we so at some point where we have enough subscriptions where this will make sense, we will start putting profit into a specific bounty, which we'll then use to how to say incentivize specific projects who want to build something on Polkadot, either using Apillon or something else, and we will be like another layer of OpenGov, but mostly focused on the application layer where we live, right? So if OpenGov is very general scope from the protocol level, or like the whole scope, we want to stimulate development or adoption high up on the application layer where the actual users live. So yeah.
Right. And can you share some like example projects that have been built using Apillon so far, perhaps, and some milestones or metrics that you have that you have achieved already?
Sure. So right now we have few of the case studies that are on our website. Is Team Step. It's a gaming platform who are basically building the whole thing with us. Then we have Pink. Probably you know the Pink initiative. Their airdrop was built and hosted with one of our pre-built solutions. Then we have how are they called? Refi Hub, who are doing how to say ecological tokenization, to put it
Right.
really simply. We have the Great Escape game is hosted with Apillon. These are the projects from within Polkadot ecosystem that we are also promoting on our website. Besides that, we have, I would say, between 5 and 10,000 websites hosted with us. Some of them are completely weird, like lorem ipsum test websites and test blogs. Some of them are production grade. But with Web3, it's very tricky where the point of disclosure starts, right? So right now, what we put on our website, it's something that we know that we have allowance to display, but everything else we're kind of also unaware what goes through us. So there's that.
Right.
But yeah, there are several NFT collections deployed. I would say also thousands of NFT collections deployed to Astar and Moonbeam via Apillon. Yeah, that's what's worth mentioning right now.
Okay. Just curious, in terms of like games, you mentioned games. What do they do then with through Appion?
For example, The Great Escape, they're doing purely hosting. So the thing is, their game is 400 megabytes, or at least it was 400 megabytes months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they were looking to host this from a decentralized endpoint because
Mm-hmm.
it's Web3. And with their with by switching to our IPFS gateway and to our pinning service, I think we decreased the load time by eightfold.
Oh,
So
wow. Mm.
and this is something, when you're working with a game that is 400 megabytes, this means a lot because this is loaded into a browser each time user logs in. So yeah, they were quite happy with the result.
Right. That's good. That's great. Right. So this all sounds really useful. So if anyone that's listening wants to kind of use Appion, right? Like, where would you point them? Where would you point a developer, or even like you said, a an event or a company or a project that wants to implement um, some Web3 components? Where would you point them to get started with this?
The best way is to visit apillon.io. Simply register a free account. Immediately as you register and you enter, you will see the services. The first thing you can do is click on storage, create a bucket, and just try dragging and dropping a file from your desktop. Once you do that and the file is completed uploading, you will get a link from IPFS, which will show you that this file is actually decentralized and served from IPFS. So this was a 5-minute test of how easy it is working with Apillon. The second thing you can do is walk through NFT collection deployment. You can do it either on mainnet or testnet, all within free account. And you can just put 3 pictures, some descriptions, and the collection will get immediately deployed. And you will also get a free template for a website which will display this collection. So it's again 5 to 10 minute job where you can immediately see how this works. And from that point, you can go to wiki.apillon.io, where we have extensive documentation on how you can use API, SDK, some code samples there, and of course our GitHub with a lot of open sourced templates. It's worth mentioning that the whole Apillon as is open sourced, so fully open sourced. Our whole backend as well, so you can check that on GitHub as well. So yeah, if you want to test it out, just start simple, dragging and dropping, and if you like it, you will immediately figure out, I think, what we have to offer.
Hmm. That's great. Right. Perhaps you'll find these links in the show notes. Right. Perhaps to wrap this up, do you want to share a little bit, like looking ahead, what your goals are and what's next for you guys?
Yeah, it's one of the things I'm very excited about, and that we are probably going to showcase in a few weeks, maybe even
Mm-hmm.
on Decoded. It's we call it embedded wallet. Uh, we also call it account abstraction, but it's embedded wallet is more true for
Mm.
this. And for this specific feature, we have partnered with Oasis, which is a project outside of Polkadot, but it's very specific in their architecture and what they provide, which basically will allow us to create wallet service where any user can use passkey to generate wallet on any parachain, without storing the mnemonics, but still having the pure security and custody over that wallet at any point in time,
Mm-hmm.
which will allow developers who are entering Apillon to use this SDK or this widgetized wallet as an onboarding tool. So basically, how this will look like is, let's say we have a user who never touched Web3, who never touched any wallet. They will be able to come with their mobile phone, click create account, use their biometrics, and a wallet will get generated in the background, and they will be able to immediately log in. And no one else will have access to this wallet.
Hmm. I
So
think that's great for adoption, this feature. And I think Base has something similar, right? The smart wallet thing.
Yes, now almost everyone is working on these, wallets of a kind. But there is a huge difference where we at least believe have a significant advantage. So wallets from Base or Third Web or similar services, they usually create a new wallet per dApp. So each time a user logs into a different dApp, a new wallet is created. While from our perspective, our architecture in this specific case allows us for user to generate one wallet and reuse it across all the dApps, which on the long run, I think it's very important, because if you generate new wallets for every dApp, what's going to happen is user will have hundreds of wallets, or let's be more realistic, maybe it will have like 20 wallets. One will have some tokens, another will have an NFT, another will have third tokens, and this will be so fragmented that there is no way that this user will ever connect all this value to a single wallet. So with the account abstraction that is happening right now, we are probably sending a lot of tokens to a point of no return, because these users will keep on logging in. Some airdrops will happen or some rewards will happen, but it will be very hard then to aggregate all this value into a single account where user can then actually use this. I might be wrong, but this is how I see it right now.
No, I think that makes sense. And this will be a great feature for user experience in Polkadot, I think.
Yes.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Nino, for coming on the show, and all the best.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.